Hey, 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 y'all. Y'all come on in here. I got my patience and I'm making do. I learned my lessons from the ancient roots. I choose to follow what the greatest do. A bird with the word game. Mm-mm. 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 The sweetness of a honeycomb tree. And now my love was taking over me. Couldn't fake it if I wanted to. Yes. I had to wake up just to make it through. I got my patience and I'm making do. I learned my lessons from the ancient rules. I chose to follow what the greatest do. I'm ready for the longest cycle. My uncles had to pay the cost. My sister used to sing. All right. All right. So we are live. I can see myself. I just want to double check. And y'all, it has been a while. I kind of missed y'all. A little nervous too, y'all. But I am so glad to be back with this special edition with Lucas World Travel. Y'all, I have known them now for a few, actually probably going on about 5 years now. Like time flies. In the words of one of my old teachers, time is fun when you're having flies. But I am going to go ahead and bring on our special guest today, the Lucases. Y'all, I'm so glad to be doing this reunion. If you did not if you did not catch our first interview, you have to go back and check it out. I'll give a quick recap and then we're gonna dig into this thing, y'all. So a year ago, we met here and we did an interview over some of the highlights. And here goes some of the highlights, right? We talked about the Black Lives Matter movement that was happening. This was in 2021. And so we were just going over all of this. This is when the Capitol was stormed. And we talked about some of the places they had been to. And at that time, they had traveled to 6 countries, right? So I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to let them tell us where they are at, y'all. Let's bring them up.
Hey everyone, good to be back.
Hey everybody.
Welcome back, y'all. So y'all, I know we've been kind of chatting a little bit, but y'all, I got some questions. I have questions. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First, let's tell the world, how have you been over the last year? How have you been?
Well, we've been excellent. We are so excited that we got to get back to traveling because we left originally 2020, got stranded in Thailand for a year and a half because of the pandemic, which was really heartbreaking because our whole goal was to travel the world, see 100 countries, but we really got sidetracked. So 2021, we were able to resume our travels and we got to do Eastern Europe. So Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, all the Balkan countries really, and Spain and Portugal. And it's been just such a dream to be able to see those places and to make beautiful videos about it. How about you?
For me, it's been awesome. I mean, even when we say we were stranded in Thailand, uh, it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's just been a whirlwind, but it's been like the best life ever. I mean, we've had some stops and some starts, some ups and some downs, some sideways, in our learning, but just pouring ourselves into all these different cultures, all these beautiful people, all these beautiful places, all this fascinating learning. We're just excited to report that there's so much to learn and so much to know. In fact, we have a saying that say, we don't know what we don't know, and it's just like there's so much new stuff going on in the world. And people are excited to meet us. They're excited to see that we're from America, that we're African American, and we just let everything go and we're traveling the world. So they're excited about our adventure and they want to follow it and they're getting excited about it. Our YouTube channel is growing. I'm writing a book. Kendra's doing classes that she's created and all of the business side of it's going well. So we have a lot to report. But most importantly, we just want to share with everyone that, you know what? Our dreams exist not only inside of America, they exist in the ethos. And wherever we decide we're going to be, that's where our dreams are going to be fulfilled. They don't have to be in America, it can be anywhere. America's great, but we can be anywhere in the world and still fulfill our dreams. So we just want to encourage people to go for it, to visualize it, to be motivated by it, and don't push the brakes, push the gas pedal, and just go. Just do what you got
All
to do.
gas, no break.
All gas.
So look, I know you guys. So we talked about this in the last interview, right? Because remember, the last time I saw you was when you two had set out on this 2-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
Then we caught up a year later, and now here we are 2 years later. So what do you feel you have learned over this last year?
You go first.
So this last year, we had, half of the year in Thailand and half of the year in Europe. And I think my biggest takeaways is to just go slowly. When we were trying to travel fast in 2020, it was just really too exhausting, and we weren't able to enjoy places like we were enjoying it in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
So this past year, we've been going to like one city and spending 7 days there, and just being able to take in the local food, the local culture, and really experience things unhurriedly has been such a joy. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is even when I'm trying to build my businesses and my courses, it's like Rome wasn't built in the day. I can't do it all. I can't stay up late hours to try to do it all. I have to take care of myself, have to take care of the work, and have to take care of these adventures we're on at the same time. So just go slow. Slowly and surely wins the race. That's what I learned.
For me, I think that with Kendra, I want to ditto what she just said, but also too, like, what's really helping me is just taking that time to meditate daily and just center my energy so that, all of my focus can be on one or two different things. And then that way, because one of the things we decided to do is we decided that before we would just rush out in the mornings, what we would do is work a couple of hours so that we don't get exhausted. We'd work a couple of hours and then we'd go explore for the rest of the day. And meditating just helped me to focus on all the things I needed to get done so that I'd have a couple hours to do that. And then when we actually went sightseeing, I was already centered. My energy was already in place. And then I can just focus on everything else around me at that point. So I just felt like during the day, the way I started my day and started my routine had changed. And it really just helped me throughout my day. It's just by focusing, centering, just getting my energy right before I step out the door. That way, when I stepped out the door, I was prepared for whatever happened for the rest of the day.
So I want to actually kind of dig into that a little bit because I think this comes up in conversation when I'm talking to people in terms of meditating and understanding maybe what that means to them. Because I know, like for me, I've gotten so much better, and definitely like thanks to you for keeping like keep meditating to you. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
And so really maybe having your perspective in terms of what does truly centering yourself and getting your energy prepared for the day mean, and what does that look like?
Okay, so for me, over the years, it's been more like I have goals and visions that I want to accomplish and things that's on my to-do list. So it kind of started out like that. But then over time, it kind of evolved into more of my meditation is like planting a seed. So like when I pull my energy together, I'm breathing and I'm relaxing and I'm just taking in the good and exhaling out whatever's bad and letting all this circulation happen and all the magic that goes on with that. Okay, without getting all technical. But what I like to think of is like if I have an idea of something, it's like I'm planting a seed. And then once I planted that seed, I can kind of forget about it. And then I just want the myself first. I have to take care of myself and nourish that idea. But as I'm nourishing that idea, if you've ever watched a seed grow, it starts out really small. And then after a while, it kind of takes over the plant holder. And then pretty soon you got to move that seedling to something bigger because it's outgrown that what you put it in. And then after a while, it becomes a tree. And now it's self-sustaining. And you don't have to worry about that tree because now it's taking care of itself and it's growing and it's becoming its own thing. So I think of it in that way. It's like as I'm pulling my energy together. So as I focus on taking care of myself and taking care of my mental health, then what happens is all of my ideas are being taken care of also. And I'm stepping into that. So taking care of the inside world and then stepping out into the outside world. That way I feel like I'm creating my world instead of chasing the wind. You know, when I go out for something, you know, when I first started setting my goals, when I got out of school and I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that, I felt like I was chasing the wind all the time. I was always chasing a goal, just chasing the next thing. But when I started meditating, I came to the realization that everything is as it should be. And then it's almost, you know, I try not to get so spiritual or technical about it, but basically these principles of the world, they work in anything, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's relationship. And I've read quite a bit on it. And what people talk about is just quieting yourself down for a few minutes in the morning, you know, 10, 20, 15, you know, minutes in the morning and releasing all the distractions, letting your thoughts come, but just releasing all the distractions to take care of yourself. And once you do that, then you're ready, you're prepared, and you're ready to go on with your day and deal with any other things that happens or come your way, because now you're not chasing the wind. Everything that you've attracted to yourself is coming to you. So I remember recently I was on a trip and I met a guy and we were having kind of a conversation like this on a walking tour. And I said, you know, I want to do these things. And because he was doing something similar to what I want to do. And I said, I want to do these things. And I don't really know what that's going to look like and what that's going to feel like. He said, well, I said, what would I do? He says, well, the opportunity is going to show up. Just say yes. That was his advice. His advice was simple. It was just like, he said, your opportunity is going to show up when you're ready. Just say yes. You know, and a lot of times we think it's more complicated than that. It's got to be more complicated than that, right? But the truth is, as we prepare, as we study, as we learn, as we grow, as we tool ourselves, as we refine ourselves, eventually that door is going to be presented to you because now you have trained yourself to be ready for that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I would say meditation is just an exercise in being mindful, being all the way there. So my typical state of mind is pretty hurried. My mind is always jumping here, there, and the everywhere. So when I meditate, my goal is to strictly think about breathing and to be present. And I try naturally, thoughts come into my head almost every 15 seconds. And it's like you acknowledge that thought and you're like, okay, I can let that thought go. I don't have to think these thoughts right now. Mm-hmm. So it's helpful for me to try to realize that the act of trying to multitask doesn't serve me. So when I'm meditating, I'm really trying to be solely present, to do something as boring as sit in place for 20 minutes. That's all I want to do, and to find some peace with that. And as I'm breathing, I'm thinking about different energy levels and different chakras. That's if I get to the advanced point. Sometimes my mind is just so hurried, I can't even get to that point. But my goal is to get to a place where I feel center and I can actually feel energy like chi running through me. So I don't get there every day, but
that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, like Kendra was just saying, you know, and kind of like what I was trying to say is like, you don't have to take care of that tree once it's there. That tree is going to mature itself. All you're doing is taking care of yourself in the moment and making sure that you're okay. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of people think, well, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to feel all powerful. And then I'm going to rush through my day and I'm going to have a powerful day throughout the day. But the thing is like some things just happen in whispers. It don't happen like a big old sledgehammer. It just happens in a whisper or whatever energy that you're feeling or you need to feel in that moment. But the thing that we have to realize is that it's a powerful practice. It's a powerful skill. It's not just that you're just sitting there doing nothing. Because that's the thing. You think, well, I'm just sitting here and I'm breathing and I'm doing nothing and nothing's happening. But really what's happening is the world's got to respond to the energy that you're in right now. So that means that as you're sitting there, as you're becoming this antenna, now the world has got to respond to you. So if you're feeling good and you're taking care of yourself, the world's going to respond to that. Just like if you are in the gym working out, or if you're training, or if you're playing basketball, the basketball players play nonstop, right? They're training themselves. So this is a skill that we're training ourselves in. And because of that, they become great players. And because of what we're doing, we're creating a better life for ourselves, health-wise and everything else.
Wow, no, that's actually really, really good. You both said two key things. Kendra said it's just as simple as being mindful. And like you said, it's a matter of planting the seed and setting it and forgetting it. And they sound totally different, but they are still one and the same. Because if I am mindful to be present right now, I can plant this seed. And then I can move forward in the day. And that's the part of letting it go and setting it and forgetting it. It's like whenever I water my plant, I'll sometimes watch it or I'll listen to like kind of hear it drinking the water. But when I'm watching it, I can literally see it just kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But I have to, like you said, you got to wait for the response. So I have to wait for it to drink it and then watch it respond. So no, that's actually really, really helpful. And I definitely wanted to ask that because I know, like I said, I have this conversation with just different people in general conversation. And as someone who's like starting out, even with myself, it's still a process of actually being okay with the process.
Oh, yeah.
To say that. So, and that leads me into the next thing because this also ties into that. Talk to me about consistency and dedication.
So this is very important in the profession that we're starting because we're going down a non-traditional path. So it's kind of hard to do something so regularly, but not see the results you want. So usually, because we're doing the whole YouTube path, we're doing online business, online courses, and ebooks. And this business plan we have, it can take 5 years to really develop. So the thing you want to choose the same thing every day. So you want to edit a little bit every day. You want to write a little bit every day, even if it's just one paragraph, even if you're just editing one clip. As long as you get up and you choose the same thing every day, you make progress. So yeah, sometimes after a long day of going out and touring and all of this, it's still kind of hard to pick up that computer and be consistent and do the things that I said I was going to do.
Exactly.
So I'm not perfect every day, but I try to get that computer out. This is why it took us maybe 2 years to really get on a consistent rhythm. It was easy in Thailand because we were in the same place for a long time. But when you're changing locations, it's really hard to set your routine again. So this is why we started to do a little bit of work in the morning, 8 to 10, so that we can, knock some things out, go out and enjoy the day. And then when we come back and we're tired, we may or may not work again. It all depends.
Yeah.
But at least we did something. We can be consistent with those 2 hours. And those 2 hours can make all the difference. So no matter what project you're working on, choose a time frame, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, 2 hours a day. As long as you stay consistent, you'll get somewhere.
Yeah, and I'll share this too. I was taking a master class. First, let me back up first. I consider myself kind of an amateur writer, working my way, trying to learn. When I was in school, one of the things I really wanted to get into was journalism, but it wasn't big back then. So I went into a different direction. And I I like writing. So what I've been trying to do is to write every day. Now then I took a course from Shonda Rhimes. It was like a master class. And one of the things that she said that stuck out to me was that you're not a writer unless you write every day. That means you write when you feel good, you write when you suck, you write when you don't feel great. You just write. Just write. You don't care what comes out of your head. Just write, put something down on paper. Okay. And so I'm right up. So I'm writing blogs, I'm writing comments, I'm writing short stories, I'm writing a book, I'm writing whatever I can write so that I'm not making an excuse. I'm writing because what's going to happen is over time, I'll just get better and better and better and better. And, the thing that I have to do because I was trained that you need to have a degree in this or you need to have a degree in that. That was kind of how I was brought up. So because I don't have a degree in writing, I have a degree, but I don't have a degree in writing. So I have to that's part of my hurdle. That's part of my obstacle. I have to get beyond that and say, I can train myself to write just like people train themselves in college to write, or just like, Tyler Perry taught himself to write. I can train myself to do these things. How do you do it? Just do it a little bit, like Kendra said, do it a little bit every day and stick with it until it starts knocking on somebody's door and somebody starts knocking on your door. Okay. So you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And what I'm finding now that I'm actually writing, I'm hearing more stories about people saying there's not enough writers. There's not enough creators. There's not enough screenwriters. There's not enough movie writers. There's not enough editors. Now that I never heard that before in my life, but now that I'm working on this skill, more and more people are saying, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. There's not enough writers. There's not enough children book writers. There's not enough, storytellers. There's not enough. And so for me, it's just that, just pouring yourself into whatever it is you want to do, whatever you think is going to be your thing, pour yourself into it. And what happens is, if that's not it, then your fork in the road is going to show up and your option will change. Your directory may change, but you'll find a different thing that's for you, know. And I want to use this example too. Tyler Perry was saying in an interview recently, he said that he was writing plays and he got play famous in the Black community. But when he got ready to start to do movies, he was already making millions of dollars. I think he had $75 million by that time. When he got ready to do movies, the people didn't know who he was. So because they didn't know who he was, they didn't want to fund his movie. And he laughed at that. But at the same time, those are the kinds of things that we face, and when you talk about consistency, I just think about one of my favorite artists. One of my favorite artists is Prince. Prince wrote a song every single day. They say that Prince have enough music in his vault to last the next millennium, put out an album every year.
Wow.
He has that much music.
That's consistent.
Yeah, because he wrote music every single day. He brought artists to his home and he would go in there and they would write music and they were like, when is the song gonna come out? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. He just he made the song and put it in his vault and it may never come out, But he did that with Lauryn Hill, Lenny Kravitz, all of these famous artists. They've all got music with Prince. Prince is long gone. But just think about how he loved what he did, so he did it every day.
So he do it every day, and that just applies to literally everything in life. I mean, everything. Just do a little bit every day, every day. Now, I know that you both have mentioned that you got some things going on. Kendra's doing classes, you're writing a book, you're also blogging, she's blogging, you guys are doing the edits, you're doing the YouTube together, you're traveling. First question, how often are you traveling? And then my second question is, what are some of the challenges that are coming up for you or that have came up for you in the last year or two?
You first.
Okay. So we've been traveling. We did a full 6 months in Europe, and then we've been here 2 months because we ran out of pages in our passport. So we had to come back, renew our passport. We got a bigger passport this time, so we were not going to run out of pages. And so we'll be gone indefinitely. Also, we had to come back to get our booster. We didn't have our booster. So now we should be all set. Hopefully they don't come out with another set of vaccinations or things we have to come back to the US to do. But next, we'll just be heading down Central America and heading south to South America. And probably once we finish South America, we'll come back here again, regroup, and then go to Africa. So we don't necessarily travel with a time frame in mind. We just travel with a continent in mind or a region in mind. And however long it takes is how long it takes, or until the money runs out, whichever comes first. But that's why we work hard on our business, so we won't have that problem.
Well, that was, one of the things is, remember I was saying before, sometimes your fork in the road shows up and you take another detour. Well, what happened with Kendra and I was this. We were never intending to come back to the United States to work.
Mm-hmm.
But we said we would settle down somewhere in the world and create a life for ourselves there, right? That's still part of our plan. But the thing is, now the fork in the road for us was that, you know what? We don't really want to work for anybody else. So that's why we're building our online businesses and our remote business. Because say we decide to settle down somewhere, have a nice spot somewhere, but we still like to travel here and there, but we don't want to be confined to someone's office or this and that and the other. But if I've got a book or two going or three, and she's got these other things going, and we've got a YouTube channel going, and we got some other little things, some irons in the fire that's taken a few years to get off the ground, then we just keep doing that and making a life of it. The one thing I will say this is that when we were in the United States, Kendra and I both owned businesses. So I owned the real estate company and she owned the salsa dancing company. Plus we worked full-time jobs. So, most people have a hustle and a side hustle, right? So people are familiar with that. So we definitely did that. And then, so now what we're trying to do is learn the skill of doing it remotely. That way we can be wherever we choose to be and still have an income coming in.
No, that right there, that actually, I'm over here like, The fork in the road definitely is, I don't want to work for anybody.
Yeah.
A lot of people have came to that fork in the road, or we've come to that fork in the road. And like you said, sometimes you just got to do it, And so, woo, with that, okay. What do you feel like with traveling the world do you feel like your views have changed being abroad versus being in the States?
Oh, yeah.
Or that coming back to the States, kind of maybe made you look at being abroad differently, and what does that look like?
I'll take that one first. So for me, when we left, we had no friends that were doing what we're doing. Okay, we had none. We knew of some people that were traveling because they were expats or they were retired or this or that. But we didn't know anyone who was, basically our age and just sold everything and just left the country. But more and more, we've met other people who are doing these similar things. And as a result, they're teaching us things. They'll tell us, go here, go there, do this, do that. Or they'll share different opportunities or different things. And we've started to learn from them how they make it. And also stuff we research and learn on our own. Well, one of the things is Kendra started an online course years ago, and then it started taking off. So it was like, Oh, I like that idea. That's a nice idea. We need to invest in some more of that. And so basically, once we left the United States, our whole mind just went because we were exposed to so much more, so many more opportunities. I think that's how I feel. I just feel like my whole mind has shifted, and now I look at not only the United States, but I look at the world differently, and I feel like I'm learning so much more about the world and how it operates. You can almost like stand at a distance and look at America differently and start to understand why things have been the way they are for so long. And you start to realize that, okay, now I see kind of the what do you call it, the rat's wheel, the what do you call it, the
Yeah,
little
that rat race. You get
Hamster
the
me.
wheel.
little hamster wheel. You start seeing why people are going in circles. It's because we only have one way of looking at things. We look at things from internal to America, but America is not our whole world. And so once you
Mhm.
step out and you can see the global fix of things and how things really work, you start to understand that there are plenty of Americans who have left America and they're living they're living the life of their dreams outside of America. And so but you're exposed to that and you see that, and now you have something you can imitate, kind of like a blueprint.
Mhm.
Whereas before, for me, and I speak for me, whereas before I had never really considered that. I never, my business have always been a local business. I had a real estate business. My business was local. It had nothing to do with Europe or this place or the other place. It had nothing to do about selling stuff on the internet. And so, but that opened me up to the world, and the internet has opened us up to the world. And we just have to realize that. I think it was 2020 when COVID happened and everybody stayed home. They start realizing I can work from home.
Mhm.
I can have my own business. I can do these things. So more and more people are thinking about that, and I have to say I'm the same way. For you?
Mm. For me, I see the biggest difference of my experience when I was in Asia than when I was. I say the biggest contrast is always when we come from Asia to the US. When we go from Europe to the US, it almost kind of feels very similar. It's
Oh.
not so foreign, if that makes sense. But when I'm in Asia, it's like a completely different state of mind, a completely different feeling. It's way more peaceful there. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it's like people are in, maybe just Thailand, for example. People seem to be in less of a hurry. Um, People aren't having any type of road rage. People are very calm and mild mannered. So it's always very polite, proper, gentle. There's no yelling, there's no anger. Versus when we come here, it's a lot of anger all the time, even at the grocery store, at the checkout line, when you're at the TSA airport, there's always somebody a little bit exasperated with life. And it's just like, this is again. And I almost feel like when I'm here, people are upset about things they shouldn't be upset about. Like
Mm.
people, things that are non issues. I'm like, really? You're choosing to be upset about this? This is very petty. And you just don't get the same amount of exasperation and pettiness when you're abroad. People, they worry about real things like, feeding their families, having money to eat, but little petty nuances, they're not worried about those things. And
This is true.
the big goal for my life is to have peace. So being around people who are more peaceful is the vibe that I'm looking for. So I found that in Thailand and I found that in Malta,
Yeah.
surprisingly,
Malta's
and
very beautiful. Yeah.
also found it in Austria. Austria was the one mainland Europe place that felt peaceful. And I don't know why, I can't explain it. It's just that intuitive part of me that kind of can feel where people are, or how people have some energy about them and they have a vibe about them and you can kind of feel that. and it either rubs you the right way or it rubs you the wrong way. So I
Every-
get good vibes in those three countries. So for me, those are the most three peaceful countries that I've been to. And they're all fairly different, you
They're
know?
different. Yeah.
But it took me a while to find countries that I felt comfortable that way. Because even before we went on this world tour, I traveled quite a bit, and nowhere I went felt, I don't know, want to say, nowhere, like everywhere was interesting, everywhere was different, but it didn't per se feel better than the United States where I was from. I didn't get a better vibe there. But I will say Thailand, Austria, Malta, I do feel better there. I do feel a better vibe.
Yeah.
So it's just curious to me that it's just so random. It's so unpredictable. For example, I thought I would feel that same energy in Portugal. I really didn't. I thought I would feel that same energy in Indonesia because everybody rants and raves about it, but I didn't. So I'm just curious, like as I travel more, am I going to feel that vibe again? Are these my three countries? So you don't know until you go. So that's
really
why I'm
don't know.
addicted to travel. I can't wait to see how I'm going to feel when we go to our next country.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's so good. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was going to say that, on top of what Kendra was saying there, it goes back to also too, you can't like, how you'll watch your favorite YouTuber, like you're watching us or something, and we'll say, oh, this place is wonderful, this place is heaven, but when you get there, it may not vibe with you at all. Like it may not be your energy at all. You may not love it. You may not, because there are several places to me, and they're wonderful, beautiful places. Don't get me wrong, but there were several places where people said, "Oh, you got to go to Bali. Bali's gonna blow you away. Bali's awesome," and it was in many ways, but it didn't vibe with my soul. My soul didn't say I belong there. You know what I mean? And for some people it does, and you have to realize that's their journey. That's what's for them, and that's where they're at in the moment, and that's their dream place. And so that's what their heart is set on. But for you, if you're looking for your special place, you won't know until you arrive there and you feel it. When you feel it, you'll say, okay, I could chill right here. I don't have to go. I don't have to go nowhere else. I'm good.
This is it.
This is it. Like I can walk out the door. When we were in Malta, we had a little apartment and you could look right down the street. You walk out the door and you could see the sea. like right. As soon as you hit the sidewalk, you could see the sea. And it was beautiful and blue. and I'm like, that I love. I love stuff like that. If I can see the ocean like right there out there out my window, I'm good. So yeah, it's places like that. So you won't know until you arrive at yours. Once you arrive at yours, you're like, you know what? I get a little apartment right here or something, and I can be right as rain right here.
I'm straight. That's so funny, but and that definitely is true. You said you got to be there. You got to just be there. You got to feel it. And so with that, right? Because I see that you both have pretty good discernment, or that your intuition, like you really truly trust your gut in terms of when you're in a place and when it feels good. So my next question is to talk to me about safety, whether that be something tangible, spiritual, whatever that looks like for you. What does having a sense of safety feel like, or what does that look like for you all?
So safety, I was not really worried about safety in Asia or Europe. So not a concern at all. Now that we're going to Central America, South America, a lot of negative stereotypes about crime and stuff in Central and South America. And that kind of gets into your mind, gives you a little bit of anxiety. But will I do anything differently? I seriously doubt I will. So it's one of those things where you're just going to have to pray and hope for the best, because honestly, the amount of crimes that I hear about right here in Nashville, it's so high. I can't imagine it's going to be worse in Central or South America. So if I feel safe standing in Nashville, Tennessee with all the, shootings and whatnot, then I should feel safe there too. It's the same thing, really. Plus, there's been, you think about all the natural disasters, all the floods, all the tornadoes and things like that. So there's nothing really that you can do that's going to protect you, whether you're just stay at home all day or you go out and explore. The risk of something happening is equal. So you might as well go out and explore, is how I see it.
I actually feel the same way about that. Like, definitely in certain parts of Asia, like Singapore and some of the other places, you almost never have to worry about anything going on in those places. Those places are super safe. They're like the safest places in the world. I mean, if you look up the safest places in the world, you're going to find like Singapore and different places like that. And then you'll find America way down, like in 300 somewhere, So in comparison alone, we're safer once we leave the borders than we are here. So most people like it, and I think because a lot of people don't travel, they don't really look into this, don't really understand this, and also too because of the propaganda that we're all inside of, right? We've been told all our lives that America is the best place. America's the best place. America's the best place. Guess what? It's not.
Yeah, over the last 2 years, all the countries we've traveled to statistically are a lot safer than the United States. So the last 2 years, I felt way safer than when I'm back here. When I'm back here, I'm like, because also I don't listen to the news when I'm in another country. I'm in my mother's house right now, and she listens to the news all the time. I was like, how many people were shot today? 3? This was just one day. And yesterday, how many people were shot? 4? It's like this happens every day.
Every day.
Reports like that do not happen in other countries. You know the number of people who got shot in other countries? 0. And there's no national crisis with children being shot.
Yeah.
So it's just completely abnormal to me that people think the United States is safe or that they're safe here.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We're not trying to dog America out. We've lived in America all our life. For me, I was like, I'm over it. I can leave. I'm cool. Okay. But at the same time, I understand that a lot of people don't travel. And so because of that, many times they don't really understand. But what they're often told is a lie. They're often told that these countries are worse off than America, and these countries are this and they're that. Some of the countries are more poorer than America and all this and that. But you got to understand that these countries don't have the same issues we have. One man's freedom to have a gun in America, they may not have that freedom in another country. But because they don't have that freedom, they don't have that issue. Okay. And so, you have to understand that. And then also too, America in and of a sense is a new country. It's a baby country compared to many of these countries that have been around for thousands of years, right? So they've solved a lot of issues over those thousands of years that we haven't figured out yet. Okay. And so as a result, many of those countries are much further ahead of us, maybe, ethnically, politically, safety, all these. They've worked some of those things out, whereas we haven't yet. And so that's what we're up against many times in America. It becomes a this side versus that side and nothing gets done kind of a thing, whereas those countries, they figured that out hundreds of years ago. And they're like, we're going to do it this way. And they do it that way, and everybody abides by it, And do they sacrifice some freedoms? Perhaps. But they don't have to worry about somebody walking into their school and shooting kids. They don't have to worry about that. And now, and I don't really want to delve into that too much. But at the same time, I do want people to understand that going outside of the country is a good thing. Seeing this world that was given to us as a gift is a good thing. And there are some very, very good people out there, and you would love it. You would just love it.
Man, Oh my God, like like Kendra said, she's at her mom's house and they listen to the news. This is my parents, and I don't listen to the news. So my mom is always like, "Did you watch the news today?" Nope, I didn't watch it. But I just figured out the car has a recall because I watched the news. I was like, "This is why I don't watch the news. I know you're gonna report it to me, but I try to like keep my mind out of that space. And it's funny because you guys said this exact same thing a year ago. And like I said, then when I talked about the recaps, we were talking about, that was when they had the riot at the Capitol, and we're talking about when they attacked the Capitol and then the riots were breaking out. And you guys said, we are here in another country looking at this from afar. And we're like, wow, because it's like, I'm watching the movie almost because you're not in the thick of it. And like it goes back to, like you said, you're sitting here from a distance and you can see why people are on that hamster wheel, or they're just kind of in this rat race, in this circle motion. Or I believe I heard in the movie like they relate to it as the Matrix, right? Like the US is the Matrix.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
I
yeah,
could see that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't seem real. And it doesn't seem like we just keep going on the same circle, the same hamster wheel,
Yeah.
when there's dozens of examples of how to fix our problems, but we don't want to follow anybody else's example. And it's like we continue to fight amongst each other. So we continue to suffer and struggle. And yeah, it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's sad in a way. There's when you have the most powerful country in the world, and used to be one of the most forward thinking countries in the world, right? And we were happy to be in that place, happy to be one of the countries setting example as far as innovation and everything else. But these days, it's more about this side versus that side, tit for tat, instead of making progress. And then when we see other countries doing better than us, instead of applauding their efforts, we try to tear them down instead of saying, "Oh man, that was great that you guys created that. That's awesome. That's good for everybody in the world. That's wonderful. Man, we should have thought of that ourselves. We need to create that here." Instead of having that good camaraderie, it's more about that tear down type of thing. It's like, oh, I don't like that country. So, they created something and they think they're this and that. Whereas before, back in the day, it was like, oh man, you created a ship, you created a plane. Okay, we need to do that. We need to do that. You created a train, we need to do that. Let's try to do it better next time. We could do this and we could do that. And I think that's where I'm hoping that America will one day turn and start going into progressive directions and things like that. But until then, we still have to live our best life. We can't just try to fix everything everybody break. We got to live our best life, right?
Yeah. In this book I read, it's like you have to think about the social consciousness of your countrymen, and you do your best to change it. But if you can't change the social consciousness, you got to leave, because you don't want them to take you to a place you don't want to be. And
don't make me run out of here, Kendra.
But that's how I felt. It's like I see the country is going in a direction I don't want to go. So in my head, it's like I got to be me. So I have to find a place where I belong. And that's part of what our journey is. Like, I could just give up and go to Thailand. I'll be perfectly happy, but I'm also very nosy. I have to see what these other countries got going on too. So it's like, well, I like these 3 countries. Maybe, there's like 100 more countries to see. Maybe they got something even better going on. So I'm going into each one, see what they got going on.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now that you all travel, right? So you're doing this traveling, and now you have like decided we are doing this indefinitely.
Yes.
What would you say are some of the mental shifts that you've had, and what is helping you keep balance?
So the biggest one is just to be more minimalistic, pack light, not worry about the material things so much. We're actually enjoying smaller and smaller spaces. And when we get into bigger spaces, we're like, this feels uncomfortable now, because it's like we don't need all this space. Why pay extra for space we don't need? So just living smallly, living within our means, doing public transportation has been a huge shift. But it's been so good for, uh, yeah, just feeling more comfortable in the world, I would say, and being, uh, you know how you keep up with the Joneses and you're always trying to upgrade your lifestyle, upgrade your look, and it's like you never get anywhere. Well, I'm trying to downgrade my lifestyle, downgrade what I buy. And you know what? I feel like I'm getting somewhere. I feel like I'm getting to the essence of who I am. So,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
good.
that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's just, um, for me, I've always said that my health is the first priority. But sometimes I'll let it go and this and that and other. But now I'm stepping into kind of a vegan lifestyle, you know, and different things like this, just to better my health situation. But more than that, just overall, just kind of from a holistic perspective. And I've always kind of been an activist type of person in my heart. So m- even my books and things that I'm going to be writing and the stuff I'm writing about now, it's kind of an activist type of role. It's more of an awareness about what's going on in our community. Many things have happened over the years, just like some of our history has been erased. Some of our, many of us don't know where our roots really exist. We'll get back to our roots and trying to find out our genealogy and different things like this. So there's some disconnects, so I'm just trying to figure that out. I'm on that path right now just to kind of figure that out. But more than anything, just creating awareness so that, once my kids get to the place when they're starting to look and starting to seek, they'll know who their people are. They'll know these things. I want to leave this for them. I want to have this created for them so that all those connections and those fill in the blanks are already there. That way,
Yes.
I would have done my part like my father did his part, like my mother did their part, and they created this information. And so now we all have it, and we can develop it from there forward. But just, I mean, I'm having Kendra's mom help me right now look up some things on the internet and find some of my family records and different things like that. Because I really think it's important. I really think it's important because in many ways we have kind of stood on their shoulders, and what happens is, and I'm gonna tell you something just real quick. What happens is many times when you get to a certain point, maybe you get down to the early 1900s or late 1800s, you'll find that your family's name just changed automatically. You're like, what happened? I mean, who did what happened, right? But back then, many times they just had to change. They had to move to a different city and change their names, you
Yeah.
know, and those stories get lost. But you can find and connect with those people and connect with their histories and all this kind. It's really weird. It's just a weird feeling. You just see, boom, all of a sudden the name change or different things. But you have to just keep plugging away at. I'm just learning this myself, but it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you could really know your family tree, because I remember those classes back in schools, like, what's your family tree? And my family tree didn't go past my great grandparents. It didn't go past that. It's like who's beyond that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think many people are starting to evolve and starting to connect those dots now. They're starting to want to, you know.
Absolutely. So while you're traveling, right? So you're traveling, you're creating these, you're creating jobs for yourself while you're moving about the world. You're making time and space to dig into just the things that you enjoy naturally in your life. What does that look like doing all of that while moving every week or every 2 weeks, whatever that looks like? What does that look like? How do you make the time and the space to do that and sleep?
Mm. Yeah, it's quite challenging. So, like we set aside time in the morning, usually 8 to 10 minimum. And then we'll go out and explore for the day, maybe for 6 hours. Come back, maybe continue to work, cook some dinner, and continue to work or relax and watch some Netflix. So it really does vary day by day. It depends on how strenuous our day of travel is. But really, because we set up the YouTube channel, Lucas World Travel, this way, part of our job is to go have fun and experience things. So I could say that me going out and sightseeing is not me goofing off, it's me working. So I have to go out there.
I just have to go to work
Really,
today.
it's me having fun. So that's how I balance it, because I would be doing this anyway. You know, I'm just going into a bit more detail because I'm making a YouTube video about it. Like, if I go as a tourist, I'm not going to remember all the little minute details, and I'm not going to document it. But because I'm trying to share it with other people, I'm actually remembering more. I'm making a point to document more. So this part of my life is the best documented part of my life ever. I'll never forget these memories, whereas so many other of my travels are like just completely gone out of my memory.
Now, I will share this. One of the things that helps to keep us balanced, at one time, like Kendra mentioned before, we're moving too fast and we get overwhelmed, you get tired, you get burned out, you feel like you're burning the candle at both ends. And you realize, okay, I can't do this and survive more than a couple of months. Okay. So you have to change that up. So we decided to travel a bit slower. So just as though when you go to, say, we're in Nashville right now, but when you go to New York, we're still in America, but New York is very different from Nashville, and New York is very different from Miami and LA, correct? Okay, we're still in the same country. You have the same issue in other countries. So that means when you go to, say, Portugal, and you go to Lisbon or you go to Porto, they're totally different vibes. Okay. So every city and every country, expect a different vibe, right? So what we have to do is we have to take a day to chill and rest and recharge. And then our heaviest day is the moving day. So we have a day in the week where we move. And that means that, okay, we're packing everything up in our Airbnb and we're changing cities. And that could be a boat, a train, that could be a plane, whatever that is. But we're going to be moving from this point to the next. And that's a whole day or so, right? Depending on where we're going. So that's in our schedule. So most people move about once every 3 years. We move every week. So to keep that in perspective, that means that if we're going to move every week, we can only have a bag or two and and a little extra for groceries or something, and we're out. We got to bounce, right? So that means that we have to keep things minimal, small, together. We can't do things like I've done. Like sometimes I've left my computer on a bus. You asked about a challenge, right? Okay. One time I actually left my computer on the back seat of a bus, something like that. And I got it back. Yeah, because
thankfully,
right? I was on his side that day.
You couldn't have been in Nashville,
right?
It was in Spain.
It was in Spain.
Those Spanish people were super nice that day.
Yeah, yeah. So so we're moving. So we plan that into our week, but we know it's like, okay, you know what? We know, for example, when we have a moving day, you have to expect almost anything can happen in a moving day. So all I want to do is get to my next Airbnb, put the luggage down, and chill and unwind and relax in a new spot, right? Yeah, right. So we have to plan that. That's part of our doing. Otherwise, if we don't plan that, then we're stressed out the next day going into the next, right? So we give that a day. There's a day for that. There's a plan for that. and we give that a day. And once we're settled in, and then we can go to the next place and stuff like that. But we have had challenges as we've moved about from this country to the next and this place to the next. Sometimes we've shown up at our Airbnb and there were things wrong with the Airbnb and we have to change Airbnbs again or different things. So it doesn't always work perfectly, but we've gotten to the point now where we're just kind of at ease with that. And we're just like, okay, we can work that out. Boom. And we just move to the next thing. We don't stand there and gripe about it for 15 minutes. We ain't got time for that. We got to figure it out right fast.
Yeah. Like Kim said, they mad about the petty things. We worried about some other things.
Right. Right. So, I mean, in addition to, working on our businesses, it is kind of hard because we're planning a new city every week. So our travel planning never stops. So that can be a real challenge to try to fit that in along with everything else. But that's part of the joy of things. We love just reading blogs, reading travel videos. So to me, that's relaxing. That's part of the joy of travel. So I guess just because we love it so much, it just doesn't feel hard to balance it all.
That makes sense.
So even if it wasn't part of what we do with our channel, we would still do it. Yeah. We love it.
I think it becomes your normal. You know what I mean? It's really our normal now. This is just kind of how we roll,
The new normal is good.
Yeah. But I saw something that you posted a while back, and I think it had to do with vision boards or something like that. And I wanted to share with you so bad. I wanted to share with your audience so bad about that because vision boards work. Okay? Vision boards work. I had 2 of them. I had one at work and I had one at home. And I had the same thing on both. And so people would come to me at work and say, "You're not going to all of those places, are you?" Because I had my travel list on my vision board. And it was just all these random countries and all of these random places. And people would say, "You want to go there? Why would you want to go there?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm absolutely going there. I'm at it." I would never let anybody talk negative about my board. It's like, my board is my business. You know what I mean? But I tell them, because you have to speak that truth to yourself. If you have a vision for yourself, you have to speak it to yourself. Don't let somebody put a negative seed in your mind and cut your fruit off your tree. You know what I mean? You have to speak it out in word and deed and vision and everything else, right? It's all like 3-dimensional. It all goes together. So I had my vision board at home and I had the one at work. And so when I saw you sharing about vision boards and stuff like that, I was like, man, that is so on point. Because also too, one of the things we did together is we created our list of things we wanted to do, and we would put them on our mirror that we shared in the bathroom. And it would be there every morning as I'm brushing my teeth. I'm looking at that list and I know it's there. Even if I'm not looking at it in my mind, I know it's there.
It's there.
It's there. And it's written down, because some of the things we have in our mind, we actually need to put them on paper. You got to take them out of your head and put them on paper, make them physical, bring them into this world. And, but all of those tricks, they work. They're mental. They work, and we got to stop doubting those things. Like, oh, that's kind of hokey pokey. That's kind of weirdo stuff. Yeah. No, all of that stuff is mental, but it works.
That's so true. And you just definitely gave me like the motivation, because my daughter's like, "Mommy, you remember you used to have those little sticky notes like Mary Jane all over the place?" I was like, "Yeah, so you know what? I need to put them back on the mirror now." It's that time. So I'm going to shift the energy just a little bit, and just because I love us so much, and I see that specifically Kendra has joined the party, our hair.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Tell me about it. How's it going for the both of you?
I had started my locks July last year. So July, I will be a full year locked. And I'm loving it.
Wow.
Loving it so much.
How is your journey going, David?
Oh man, when I first started, my hair looked crazy, right? When I first started, because I had a professional here in Nashville actually start my hair for me. But after that, I had to do everything myself, and I was scared. I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. So I started watching YouTube and everything else, started to find little, stuff so I could twist my hair and do this and that. And I will tell you this: when you start going deep into Europe, there's a lot of those places they don't have black people hair hair stuff over there. Okay, okay, you're gonna have to figure it out on your own.
You got to mix and match some things and bring
Yeah,
your own products.
you're gonna be using some old school stuff. What I'm saying? So, but yeah, so I was twisting my hair myself, washing it myself, oiling it, treating it myself, and I'm loving it, man. We were up on top of mountains and stuff, up in these castles and fortresses and stuff. The wind's all blowing, my hair is blowing like crazy, and I'm loving it, man.
So, Kendra, what inspired you to go ahead and lock your hair?
Oh, I've always wanted to since I was a teenager, but my mother wouldn't let me. But now this is all about me. This year is all about doing what I want to do, living my dream. So now my hair gets to live its dream too. And my hair is loving it.
I am loving it, loving it. I was just looking, like I said, I was stalking y'all's YouTube for a little bit there. And I was looking, I said, wait, oh, Kendra started her locks. So I remember when I first saw you started, I was like, that's a good look. And then I'm looking at you over the recent days, like the recent last few months, and I'm like, it is truly her. Like I could see, it doesn't even feel like you didn't have locks before, almost. And I also say that about myself sometimes. It's like, dang, Tia, you didn't used to have locks before. And so just one of those things is growing on you for sure. But I love them on this.
Yes, I really love the look. And it's like it's so easy to maintain. It's much easier than what I was doing before with the crochet braids, with just my natural hair, with even protective styling. It's easier than that. So I just love it. I literally just shake it and it's ready to go.
People say, Tia, what do you do to your hair? Nothing. I do absolutely nothing. Occasionally I go and see my stylist and she kind of, she gets me all right. She gets me in there. But then other than that, she knows. I'm going to let it get thick at the roots. I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go. But like Kendra said, doing those protective styles and crocheting is not an easy task. And you got to carve out hours to get those things done. And it's just too much sometimes. So I'm going to ask this question to you all. What do you feel like people don't ask you about?
That's a good question, actually. What don't people ask us about? What do you think?
I have no idea.
I think
you don't know what you don't know.
Right. I think that many a times when I'm having conversations with people, they'll give example. We were on a bus tour. Well, not a bus tour. We were actually on a travel day, and I met this guy, and he asked me questions for a straight 4 hours. And this was the first time that happened. And he was a young man, and he was, I think he was, if I'm remembering correctly, he was American, but he was living abroad and asking me all these questions because he was thinking about moving abroad and different things like that. So he asked me questions for a straight 4 hours. You remember this? So now, but he was a young single guy, but he didn't ask in that instance. And I've met many other people. What they typically don't ask, in my opinion, is our relationship. Because what tends to happen with us, because we're business partners, we're traveling, we're basically together 24/7 hour, 24/7 every hour of the day. We're together basically, right? We're attached at the hip. So typically most relationships that I've ever experienced, if you're around that person that much time of your day, you're fed up with them by the end of the day. Okay. And so how do we maintain without having any conflict? Because we don't really argue a lot. We have some disagreements and we let them go, but we don't have a lot of arguments and stuff. And so I think that the reason that is because we each have our own different vibe and the way and different ways we approach things. But I think we respect each other's hustle. Like Kendra has a way that she likes to be, and she's there and she's in her space. And as long as she's there, she's good. For me, I'm totally different. I want to be outside. I have to go. I can't sit in the place too long. I have to do this and I have to come and go. And when I'm doing tasks, I stop and I start. I stop and I start. I stop and I start. I'm kind of that person. But eventually I'll get it done, you know? So I think you have to respect how each other works, what their mode of work is and this and that. And when it's time to chill, it's just time to chill, you know? And if we want to be like, because everything to us is like a date. If you think about me,
It really is.
we go to all these beautiful, fantastic, gorgeous places. So everything is like a date, whether we're exploring during the day or if we're chilling or going dancing at night, everything is like a date. So what I find odd for us is that we have to actually plan a date. So we're always like on a vacation, right? So it's like you have to plan when you want to do a special date or a special something. Like for me, I love the Avengers and I love all the crazy movies and different things like that. That's not her vibe. But when she wants to take me on a date, she takes me to a movie because she knows that's my vibe. You know what I mean? So it's things like that. So you have to just understand how the different person work and how to, how to give each other space so you're not up on each other all the time. Because most of our apartments are this big. Most of our apartments are this big. So there's no way that you're not going to see each other. You go have a separate room by yourself and have your basement and all your cave, your man cave, and all. You don't have all that, right? So you have to understand how to work together and be in it together. You like 100%, you in it together. And that's just kind of how we roll.
Man, wow, like that actually was a really good question, like, or the questions you don't get to pull up. That was really, really good because I think that's something that a lot of people actually just don't think about in general. We all kind of generalize how we coexist around people, but we really don't think about how we coexist around people. Because like you said, we're like, oh, I need the space, I need this, or whatever that may be. So no, that's really good. That's really good. So I'm going to close out here. I'm going to ask you all. So David, you're writing. Kendra's hosting classes. Tell us a little bit more about those.
Okay. When we came here, we were actually going to go to another place, but we ended up having to come back to America to get our booster shots and different things. So when we came here and we stayed here, Kendra started working on her courses. She'll tell you about that. But for me, I was starting to do what I normally do, which is on my blog and this and that. And I said, oh man, I'm here. So this is the opportunity to write this book I had in my head. So I just said, okay, well, I'm going to sit down and start writing to see what happens. So I sat down, I started writing. And before long, I had the book and the book was written. So my book actually will be launched at the end of the month. And so I'll come back on your show and we'll actually talk about it in depth. But what I did is I went back through our history, since 1619. I went back through our history and start seeing all of these different incidents that happened up to now. And I started seeing a pattern of different things that the government kind of did and kind of what politicians kind of did and all of the, you start seeing a pattern once you start putting it together. And my thought was that now that we're in a space where, you got CRT, you got the book 1619 and different things that are coming out, and they're actually pulling books off the shelf and taking them out, taking our African-American literature off the shelf, and they're taking all of these things from us. and they don't want our children to learn these things. Well, it's upon us to teach our children these things. So that's where my book comes in. My book comes in because although there are some very negative things that happened to us in our past, we still need to know about it. We still need to know what went on and how and when and how it affects us. And we don't need to come through school like I did, being taught that African Americans didn't have anything to do with the history of America, because we built America, but we may never get credit for it, but we did. So we have to start telling that story ourselves. And I was motivated by the book 1619 and the CRT stuff, because it was like, wait a minute, it's not upon white America to teach Black America our Black history. I'm Black. I can teach. I know so. I don't know everything, but I know enough, and I can teach some of these things myself. And so I've always kind of been that way. It's like, you know what? If there's a niche that needs to be filled and it helps, okay, I'll do that. And so I started writing and putting my book together based on that. And like I said, we'll get in more depth talks of it. But you just start, if you look closely, much like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Huey Newton, all of them, if you start putting together the pattern, you start seeing over time different things that's happened throughout our history as Americans. And, you know, it was systematically removed or erased from history, and we have to put it back. It's upon us to put that back, because that's for us to do.
Mm.
And for me, on my side, I teach English as a second language on Udemy. And I have 3 different courses. So one's just a basic master English course. One's a speaking course called the English Speaking Intensive. And I just created a new one while we were here in the United States called Business English for Meetings. So just launched that one, and it's doing really well already. So very excited. It was worth the effort. And now that I got 3 courses launched, I'm hoping that I haven't focused any of my energy on advertising whatsoever. So that's my goal for the next 3 months, so we can see if we can get that full-time income up. But once I finish the advertising part, then I also plan on writing a book about travel, though, not so much about history. And then doing a course on course creation. You know, I've made 3 courses, so I feel like I can teach how to create a good course so that more people can become more remote, more financially independent, where they don't have to, you know, work for somebody else. They can work for themselves.
Yes. I definitely need to keep my eyes out, like, yes, when is the course coming, so we can live and work remotely and create our own life and just live our greatest life ever.
Yes.
However, like, I mean, this is so dope, because I'm also writing a book, and I believe I was watching, you had posted something, David, about what you were doing in terms of writing that made your writing process easier. Now, like you said, sometimes as a writer, you're like, I gotta write a little bit every day. And I'm always everywhere doing everything. So sometimes I am writing in the car. And so what was that tip? If you want to just kind of share with our viewers here, what was that tip for the writers?
Actually, you know what? There are a lot of fancy writing tools that's out there, but the easiest one that I found was Google Docs. And what you find out is that if you're working through Google Docs, by the time you're done with what you're producing, you can download it from, you can format it and download it into any of those like Kindle publishing type of formats like EPUB or Microsoft Docs, or any of those that you really need to actually make your book if you're self-publishing like I am. It makes it really easy for you to format everything and get everything right. And another thing is, if you're doing an ebook and you're going to put it on Kindle Publishing or Amazon, then there's a app called Kindle Create. and it's very easy to use, very easy for formatting and different things like that. Like and what happens is when you're creating something like this for the first time, like I've written a book before, but I never published it. So, but when you're creating a book for the first time, what happens is you don't know all how to use all these tools. So you have to look up all the nuances and different things and figure out how to use them, right? So once you learn that and you do it once, then you can do it 1,000 times.
Oh, what was the name of that app you used to read the book to you for editing?
Oh, that was one of the ones that really, really helped me. And it's called Edit Out Loud. Edit Out Loud. And what it does is, if you use the free version of it, like I did, what you do is you take your manuscript and you download it into like a Microsoft Word or Microsoft Docs type of thing onto your computer or whatever. And you can upload it into Edit Out Loud. And what it'll do is it will read your manuscript back out to you in voice, right? And so you can hear all of the mistakes or, because one thing to correct grammar when you're editing, it's one thing to correct grammar. It's another thing to actually hear it spoken to you. When you hear it spoken to you, you find all the little errors that grammarly wouldn't have found and all of that. You know what I mean? So actually hearing the book
didn't really flow good or something.
Yes. So when you're creating your book and you actually listen to it. So what I did was I took every little chapter that I had and I put it in there one at a time, and I listened to the whole thing. I listened to the whole book all the way through. And and what I did, instead of waiting, every time I saw an error, I corrected it right then. Every time I heard an error, I corrected that sentence right then, so I knew it was done. And then I could move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then pretty soon you've gone through your whole book. Now you can purchase the edit. There's a version that you can purchase and all that, but I wanted to do the free version. So I just put it in a little at a time and did it that way. And then I corrected it and I went through it. But it's super helpful, and then that way you might find that you don't have to really go and, pay a professional editor to do just that, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to put it on a system and they're going to read it back to them out loud and they're going to correct all your mistakes. But if you can do that yourself, and that's kind of what we believe in, anything we want to do, we want to kind of do it ourselves and learn the nuances of it and study it and figure it out. And yeah.
That's actually really helpful.
Yeah. Check out Edit Out Loud. Edit Out Loud. Check that one out.
Yeah. Y'all, it is always so fun when we get on here, then we get carried in conversation as always. I'm always like, let's try to keep it, we'll try to figure out how to keep it in the time frame. But like I told you before, I'm a conversation kind of person. Like I just can talk and I can keep on talking. But y'all, I won't keep you all much longer because, of course, as we know, we're going to be back here. We're going to be digging into this book. And Kendra's going to come over here and she's going to tell us about these courses. So then we're going to all be able to just live our best life and work remotely.
Yes.
So, y'all, we will definitely be back for a part 3. Or I guess you could say, it'll be a part 1 and then we can just keep on going, y'all. So just ride with us, just flow, okay? So, y'all, are there any words that you would like to leave our viewers with? A travel tip, whatever that looks like, just words of encouragement, whatever, is in your heart.
I would just say spend a little bit of time each week trying to think of what you really want with these next 5 years of your life. And just be working on that a little bit every day. And you'll be surprised where you end up. I would have never thought we would have ended up right here, but just by working on it a little bit each day, thinking a little bit each day about what I wanted, it took me to such fantastic place. I can't recommend that more enough. Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I think the thing is like, I've heard people say things are impossible. And what I've seen is that people do impossible things every day. So I just want people to use their imagination. Because I was having this conversation with someone, and he said, man, I couldn't imagine doing that. And I said, you know what? The thing is, people are doing every day the things you can't imagine them doing. You know,
Mm.
people are getting it done somehow. They are figuring it out, right? Because they're not shutting themselves down. They are just saying, you know what? This might have been something I dreamed up and didn't know how to do or whatever else. But since I persevered and I stuck with it and I kept it on my vision board, guess what? I have arrived at it. And if something is important to you, you seem to find a way. Whatever that is. For some of us, that is getting a new car. And we figure out how to bend the world to get that new car. Well, my thing is, I want to travel the world. So I'm bending the world to figure out how to do it. And I think that no matter what it is you want, no matter what your motivation, no matter what your desire, you can figure it out if you want it bad enough. Mm-hmm. So I just really want to encourage everybody that, who was this? This was recently, and I'll leave you with this. There was someone said to Shakira. Someone told Shakira when she was young, "You can't sing. Your voice is bad." They wouldn't let her in the choir, and she was so disappointed. Okay, now think about that. Then think about the idea, just in an idea, that Michael Jordan not making a basketball team. Just think about that for a second. Who would tell Michael Jordan you can't play basketball? Okay. I mean, but here's the thing. We encounter that kind of energy every single day. Somebody tells you that you're not good enough and you can't do this and you can't do that. Somebody's going to come out of the woodworks and tell you that every single day. But you have to tell yourself, yes, I can do it. I can do it. Mm-hmm. I can make this happen. And I don't care if you believe in it. I'm not proving it to you. I'm only proving it to myself. I was born by myself. I wasn't born with you. I'm not going to die with you. So I'm going to do what I got to do. Right. So, and these are the kind of things that I tell my kids. It's like, don't link up with somebody who destroying your dreams. Nah, because that ain't no friend. Because that ain't no friend. I mean, you can call them what you want, but that ain't no friend. So use your imagination. Once you create something in your imagination, Picasso said, if you can imagine it, it's real. And we were at Picasso's museum, and I saw that, and I said, whoa.
It's real.
If you can imagine something, it's real. Think about that. Meditate on that. That'll change some things in you.
That's a good one to take to the meditation mat. Definitely a great one. Y'all, oh my God. Thank you all for those nuggets, because honestly, we're talking of traveling, we're talking of history, we're talking of the things that are our goals, but there's something that is attached to all of this in general, and that is showing up for yourself and just choosing to live that life that you see for yourself. And one day you're going to see it. Vision board it out, meditate it out, whatever that look like, you just focus on it, you stay consistent, and you dedicate your life to it, because your life depends on it.
Yes.
Truly. So y'all, let us tell the people where they can find you all, and then we will get out of here.
Okay, sure. Our website is lucasworldtravel.com. And the main way you can find us, though, is our YouTube channel. Just search for Lucas World Travel on YouTube. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram, same handle. And that's LUCAS.
Yeah, as always, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much for all of the gems.
It's always a pleasure.
Right. Oh, yes. So, y'all, until next time.
All right. Bye. Take care.
Let's see.